All right. So, part two of the cream cheese video, if you will. I mean, it's a second video. Yeah, anyways. So, it's good, actually. It seems to be doing just fine. Now, I was talking a lot about curds and whey. So, with making cheese, you are not eating the whey. This is the acidic part. It's usually considered like a byproduct of making cheese. So this yellowish part that you see here, this liquidy part, that's whey. This here is curd, this white mass underneath. So whey is really acidic. You can use it to bake bread. It makes bread actually pretty tender. I don't like whey. So there are uses to whey. You could use, I don't think you can with this with the cultures that I particularly used, but you can also use it to make ricotta cheese because it's acidic enough to make more cheese, if you will. But you have to use it within the day. So I'm not using it at all. It's just going to be going down the drain. But I just wanted you to get a decent close-up of what whey looks like. So now we're going to start straining it to get the whey out. Okay, so the next step with cream cheese, get out of here, is to take the curd out and strain it because we want to get all the whey out. It's acidic, it tastes like garbage, it literally tastes like vomit to me. So, I know I'm being dramatic. So the way that I typically strain, and most people do strain, is a mesh strainer. I don't have a mesh. This is going to make a lot of it. So, and this is a lot of mass. It's going to end up being only about 2 pounds, but you need what's called butter muslin. It's like cheesecloth, but it's a denser weave, so stuff doesn't come out. I have unusual lengths and stuff. I should probably have ironed this beforehand, but it's okay. So, let's do this one. I need a bigger. The reason I'm going to do one in a glass bowl is I kind of want everyone to see how much whey actually drains off it in the first hour. Let me find a big piece. Oh my god, I have all small pieces. I cut this like an idiot. Whatever, we're going to cross it. Once. Yeah, twice. This looks fine. And we're going to do a lot more with this, so you'll see the fun things you get to see of it. So you're just going to take like a ladle, and this is a curd mass. So it's kind of gelatinous. This cream cheese is soft. Certain other curd masses are a little bit heavier than this. The reason I know that this is done is that the whey was on top. It was starting to get separated enough that the whey was starting to go on top of it. And it does look really soft. Most of the reason it's curded is actually because of the rennet that was added. Not necessarily just the cultures. So I'm going to just slowly ladle all this scuffle in. And it takes a little bit of time. Near the end, I honestly just pour it in. If you don't have butter muslin, you can probably use cheesecloth. You're just going to need a couple. Alright. So this thing keeps cutting out, weirdly enough. But anyways, I have all of them strained. So they're all muslins and strainers draining. This one, it's only been straining for about 5 minutes. And, I'm really scared of that one. I'll show you how much, oh my gosh, it's so like, alright. I'll show you how much whey has already drained off of one of them. It's a lot of whey to have been drained. So there's a lot that's still in there. So this drains for an hour. And again, you can save it, you can bake bread with it, you can do whatever, but I personally do not care for whey. I don't usually use it when I'm baking bread. I have one recipe that calls for an acidic juice, as an orange juice, but this is fine. So I'm just kind of letting it all drain. So an hour, we'll come back and then start massaging it and then hang it. And that's going to hang probably overnight. Alright, so it's been an hour. It's drained quite a bit of whey off of it. I emptied this twice. So that's a good amount. the next step to do is kind of the longest step. So you're gonna hang it, and I have a nifty coat hanger that I use. So you're gonna essentially take this, not essentially, it is what you're gonna do. You're gonna take the muslins and tie them around here and let it hang overnight. And that's about it. So I'll start doing that. It's a little tricky, just in that I like kept having nightmares while I was at work that stuff was just gonna fall, and I was gonna come home and there was gonna be cream cheese everywhere, and it would have been hilarious, except it would have not been. It didn't happen. Now, as it's hanging, every couple hours, you are supposed to massage it to make sure that you're kind of getting the curds to release as much whey as possible. This kind of cheese does not really utilize any whey in it at all. The yogurt, you can keep whey in there, and it's like normal, smooth, soft, like liquidier yogurt. Technically has whey in there. You can keep it in there if you want. That's mostly what the tang is in that stuff. But in cream cheese, you are really trying to get it out. The other way people get it out is pressing cheeses, but you would do that for like any hard cheese because it's soft. So I got one. You can see that it's still kind of expressing whey, and it'll drip for a while. So bundle number 2. And this one's smaller, so this one's going to actually end up kind of completing quicker than the other two, which have a little bit more curd in it. And this is the point where it doesn't smell particularly great. In fact, my husband just said to me,
"Oh, great. It's gonna stink in here on your birthday." No.
And I said, yeah, it will. That it will indeed do. Alright, last one. And this one just had the remaining curd in there. And then the whey dripped in. That's actually a fair amount. And this wasn't a terribly, big amount of this stuff. Alright. This one's still a little wet. Problem solving. I don't want to lose any precious curd. Ooh, this one's small. If you lose some, I mean, whatever. Again, it's 2 pounds of curd. It's not the end of the world. Okay, first time I filmed this is a little out of focus. So I have like a hook up here that I screwed into the ceiling for cheeses that need to be hung like this. So it's hanging on by this lovely coat hanger that's never going to be used again for anything but cheeses. But you can kind of see how much whey is still coming out. So every couple hours I'm going to come back and I'll probably film one time, a spatula and scrape it down from each of these little bundles just to kind of help it expel a little bit more whey. This one here is definitely going to take the longest to do, but I'm probably going to end up doing, letting it drain overnight, and then tomorrow around 10ish, because it's 5, around 10ish, I'm assuming we're going to call it and say that it's good. But yeah, that's the first part. So I'll film when I am scraping it down, so you kind of see how much it's going to change texture as the draining keeps happening. Alright, so it's been a couple of hours, and now I'm just kind of scraping down the muslin. You can see that the outside is kind of drained a little bit better, or a little bit more, because it's having more contact with it, while the inside is still kind of mush. So all you're kind of doing is like moving it over. That's muslin. And that just is going to release a little bit more whey. The other ones are probably small enough that they're not really going to need to do this as much because they're going to drain a lot quicker. This one's a little bit denser. There's like nothing working on it because it's not one piece of muslin. So I'm just kind of moving it. The other thing I did last time was I kind of like, you can kind of tell too, this one has quite a bit in it. Since the butter muslin's not gonna, I squeeze it a little bit too. The butter muslin it won't push out of, but I have a feeling with the cheesecloth it would. So just kind of massaging it a little bit to try to get it out. It's only been like 2 hours, 2-3 hours, so I don't expect it to be like completely dry. By tomorrow, it'll probably be mostly dry. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. It's kind of gross feeling, but as the more whey drains out of it, it's gonna get quite a bit firmer. But then obviously, it's gonna like dissipate. It's gonna be about a quarter less than it is currently. So you just kind of do that, fondle it if you will, every couple hours just to help push out some more of that whey. But once that's done in the morning, all you got to do is mix in salt and you're good. Okay, you did it. It's been 3 days. Your family's starving to death. You're just, the only thing you want is cream cheese. You're done. It's done. Hallelujah. So, it all depends on how, again, a lot of this is like made to your liking. How much you like drier cream cheese versus a little bit wetter cream cheese. I'm cool with any kind. Cheese is cheese for me. I'm from Wisconsin. That's just how we are. So I pulled my bundles down and now I'm dumping them. And they're going to be caught no matter what. Whether you use cheesecloth or butter muslin, they're going to get caught in there. My hands are clean. I only picked my nose 4 times. And you can rewash these. These have been used many times. The cheesecloth, don't put them in the washer. They kind of get funky. But the butter muslins are fine. So you can see easily how dry it is compared to the initial curds that were drained. So I'm just going to yankety-yank it all off. And it is okay. I should have said this before. You are letting this stuff sit out at room temperature for essentially 3 days. That's fine. You're not going to die from it. Cheese normally is. Think of things like provolone, which are air dried and not a terribly low. Most cheese is aged at like 50 degrees to 60 degrees, which is definitely not what we would consider refrigeration, really. In fact, if you wanted to do that at home, like age your own cheeses, you would, like conventional refrigerators don't get that warm. What I found, I haven't gotten one yet. I'm debating about doing aged cheeses. Wine coolers tend to have enough, like, variability in hot. They get warm enough that you can age cheeses. So I'm not gonna sit for a day and pick out all of that because I am a busy lady. Ugh, my hands. Now, as is, like with the yogurt, it is just plain, so you're gonna add salt to it, or whatever you want to add. You can flavor this however you want, but the initial thing is usually salt. I'm using flaked cheese salt. Cheese salt is a little bit finer than most salts you'll get in store, and it's apparently non-iodized. I don't know what that means. I'm not a chemist. I went to school for art, man. I couldn't tell you. So I'm going to do this because this is what I see people do on like food cooking stuff. Oh, gently. So it's a teaspoon of salt. You really can use the other kinds of salt if you really, really need to. But if you want to be ultra cheese master, then get the cheese salt, I guess. It really is about the same cost. It's not a huge deal. I have plenty of cooking things that I like only use for certain like applications, like cheese salts. So now I'm just mixing it in as your eyes have told you. mixity mix. And it does have a smell. My husband hates when I make cream cheese because it does stink up my whole place. And it smells like cheese. So there's a lot of fun quoi right now going on in my apartment. And that's kind of okay. You know, if I walked in the hall and I smelled that, I'd be like, whoa, take a shower, sir. And then I would think, and then also I would be like, I wonder if he's making cheese. So you're just kind of spreading it around. But this is like, to me, perfect consistency with cream cheese. It's so good. A little bit tangier than store-bought. But there's nothing, I mean, you saw what's in there. There's really not a whole lot that goes into it. It's milk, cream, cheese salt, rennet, and buttermilk mesophilic, which is that type of culture. And, did I say rennet? Yeah, rennet and calcium chloride. So there's really not a whole lot. This can last, it sounds really gross to say something lasts this long, 1.5 to 2 weeks. After that, it does get fuzzy, as my mother, shout out Patty Waddy, found out when she taste tested it for the first time. But I think I'm going to see her next week. I'll give her some non-fuzzy stuff. So yeah, you're done. You made cream cheese, or you just watched a video how to make cream cheese. But if you want other cheeses, I can certainly do other ones. I've made mozzarella. That's turned out great. I don't know. I'm okay with even doing new ones I've never made. Oaxaca is a pretty cool cheese that I was thinking of making this year. Yeah, that's it. But you can flavor this however you want. You could put fruit in it, herbs. One really cool way that I've done it, and I like had it as a spread, was I took it and I rolled it, and I put za'atar on it, which is a Middle Eastern like oregano-y type spice. It was delish. But yeah, have fun. Do it your way, because this is McDonald's of home cooking.